Hi everyone, welcome back to this channel of crafting, crochet and knitting. My name is Nikki and welcome to my little yarniverse. So hello, welcome if you're new, welcome back if you're a returning viewer. It has been a while, just when I think I'm getting into the swing of recording regularly, life just becomes chaotic. And we are pulled left, right and centre, and I am just exhausted. I'm totally exhausted, and it's been months, and yeah, I'm so sorry. Like, that was not my intention. It has just been, like I said, total chaos. However, thankfully, because I don't know how I would be keeping my sanity if it were not for this, thankfully a lot of what we have had to do over the last few months has allowed me to actually take my knitting with me and to have time to sit with my knitting in my lap whilst I do whatever it is that I need to do. We have been travelling to different places and visiting people and being on courses, and yes, thankfully on a lot of those occasions I've been able to sit with knitting in my lap and do some knitting. So I have got a lot to show you. In fact, I've got so much to show you that I'm gonna have to split this up into stuff that I've made for other people and stuff that I'm making for myself. So yeah, I'm sorry about the lighting, it's terrible, it's autumn. What can you do? I have no free weekends. I am doing this after work. Let's jump straight into the stuff that I've been making predominantly for friends and family who have been having children. So there's a bit of a story behind all of this baby stuff that I've been making. 7 months ago, in the spring, a whole bunch of people announced they were pregnant. It's how it happens. It seems like I get a wave of people tell me that they're pregnant all in one go, and then I get a little bit of a break, and then before you know it, there's a whole second wave of people telling me that they're pregnant, and then third wave, fourth, and so on and so on. So we are on whatever wave we're on now. And we had several people to knit and crochet for, and I make amigurumi toys for most people, and then sometimes little jackets and hats depending on when that baby is due. So I made a whole bunch of toys, and I'm now in the process of making the knitwear for the babies, or have been in the process over the last few months of making the knitwear for the babies who are due sort of this back end of the year, and so actually they're going to be born in the cold and they're going to need something to keep them warm. And I have a lot of yarn. All of this. And on top. There's a lot of yarn. And I thought, great, okay, well, it's going to keep me busy, but at least I've got an excuse to use up a whole bunch of yarn because I want to make some space. Up until this point, my seats had 2 or 3 bags of yarn on it, and I eventually was able to put it on the shelves, but then I got another bag, so it's been a whole thing. I'm trying to get the yarn on the shelf in here, so I made some space, and what I did was pulled out a whole bunch of yarn that I thought, yeah, I'm going to do this for Christmas, I'm going to do this particular amigurumi, I'm going to need this, I'm going to get some pastel colours, pulled it all off the shelf, and I told myself, yeah, okay, this should be plenty, to make baby things out of. And so I started. I made the typical amigurumi. So made a few amigurumis. They've already been gifted. You'll have to go back to my previous videos to see those. But I made this chap as well because one zebra was requested. So I'd pulled off some white yarn, I'd pulled off some black yarn. I also pulled off this green because I saw it and I thought, oh, well, the parents support particular sports teams, so that will work quite nicely. Made this fella. Had loads of black and white left. And then I made the classic Christmas jumper that I make, or Christmas cardigan, sorry. And this is a very simple pattern that I do. It's just a yoke pattern, it's crochet. All you do is just change the colours every now and then in whatever pattern that you want to, and you can make a whole bunch of different looks. So I like making these stripy red, white and green motifs, and that used some of the more of the white. Still got some left. Used some of the green. Still got some left. Used some of the red. I do believe that the red was already a partial skein anyway, so that made a fair dent. Not got too much of that left, but it's not going great in terms of being able to eat the stash up. So I've got this really cute baby jumper, and that should do for someone who's giving birth about a month before Christmas, so be hopefully good fitting at the right time. So I think I've showed that before. And then I made another cardigan, slightly bigger. So with this cardigan pattern, all I do to try and make it a bit bigger sometimes is there is multiple sizes, so I tend to use the first two sizes, so there's like a newborn size and a 6-month size, but also depending on what yarn, depending on what yarn, but also depending on what hook I use, so I can sometimes differ it by 0.5 or a millimetre, and I get a slightly bigger outcome. So I've got slightly bigger one here, a little bit more generic, will last into the spring, you know, because it's still cold through January, February, March. So I did this, and you can see I picked out these nice pastel colours, and I put some grey in there as well, just to sort of make it stretch further. And I did use a fair amount of grey. Again, the grey was a partial skein. All of these colours actually were partial skeins, some slightly bigger than others. And then there was still loads left. I'm getting a little bit worried now. So I think, okay, well that's fine, because I was going to make matching hats, right? So I made a matching hat, bit big. This is a standard hat pattern that I use as well, very simple chevron design. You increase for a bit, and then once you get to about here, you just keep going. And you increase by just doing a stitch in the point, and then when you're no longer wanting to increase, you just stop doing the stitch in the point. So makes this. It's kind of big. You could fold it up a bit, but then you lose a lot of the colour, but I don't think it matters. It'll just last long, right? Like, it'll last through to the autumn probably, because it's huge. But you know, got a matching hat. Still got loads left. Absolutely loads. Now bear in mind that these pastel colours were partial skeins to begin with, and I still have loads left. So I'm getting a little bit annoyed at this, because I'm not putting those partial skeins back up my shelf. It's not happening. By this point, I have already, in an absolute blitz on my room, decided that I was getting sick of the fact that I had bags of yarn from yarn shows spilling out into the room on my chair, so I couldn't use my chair. I was done. I was sick of it, and so I started shoving all this yarn, you know, rearranging it, trying to make space, and I did. I made enough space. I've now got 2 boxes where all my hand-dyed yarn is, until I went to a show the other week and I got more, but I think it's only like 1 skein left, and I'm working with the other skein, so it's kind of okay. But the point is, I put all of that yarn on my shelf, having made space. There's no space now. It's gone. The yarn I pulled off of this shelf and put into a separate box as the box of yarn to use for baby things, that box can't go back on this shelf anymore. That's it, we're committed. And so I just looked at that box, I'm not gonna lie, with slight disgust at myself for having so much yarn that I just haven't used. And I thought, that's it, we're committed. This whole box, it's gotta go. This whole box has got to become baby stuff. I don't care which baby it goes to at this point, it's just gotta become baby stuff. So that's what I've been doing, is I've just worked through this massive pile of yarn until we've made a dent, and there's still more in there. Maybe I should show you the box after all of this, but bear in mind, at this point, I'm done. So I get the pastel colours, and I never hold yarn double usually, because I'm thinking I get way more yardage if I don't hold it double, so why would I hold it double? And at this point I was like, no, I'm done. I don't care. This yarn, it's got to go. Quite handy actually, if you're looking to get rid of yarn, hold it double. So what I did was there was a chunky dress pattern that I've made once before, and it's a little baby dress, and I mean like baby, like newborn baby dress, and I held yarn double, and I just kept going from the top down until I was running low on this colour. then I swapped to the next one till I was running low on this colour, then swapped to the next one till I was running low, and then just realised at that point I was getting very close to the end of the dress, and so I did this final one in the blue, final 2 rows in the blue, so that I did have all the colours in there. I was gonna throw the remaining grey in there, but when I saw how quickly at last we were using up yarn, I decided against it, and I just went with this is going to be pastel dress. It's not going to be used more than a few times because it's got such a small head hole that it won't take long before the baby can no longer fit in it, and I get like such small armholes as well. It very much is just a very pretty newborn dress, and then it'll be done with. But that's fine. It's acrylic yarn. It can be washed. It can be redonated. So I made that. So having stopped being quite as frustrated at my yarn pile, I decided to do some simple knitting I could just throw on my lap, and we ended up with a little baby blanket. And this is another great way to use up yarn, by the way. It is a very basic pattern, don't get me wrong, but what you do is you cast on like 3 stitches, and then you just increase. You knit and you increase. So I did knit and then purl on the back. So I increased on the knit rows and then just did straight knitting on the back rows, and you keep going. Caveat: you have weighed your yarn before you cast on, and you keep going until you hit the point where you are just under halfway through your yarn. And I do mean just under. And then instead of increasing on your knit rows, you decrease. And so this is effectively a corner to corner knitted blanket that is guaranteed to be a square and guaranteed to use up all the yarn in your ball that you don't want to keep. So as a result, it's got this really quite nice diagonal pattern. I'm really quite happy with it. One of my biggest complaints when I make baby blankets is not knowing how many stitches to cast on in order to have the final effect be like a size ratio that I want. And I like a square blanket for a child, and so actually this worked out perfectly. So perfectly, in fact. Finished that skein. That was a part skein, finished it. Had another part skein. So this I finished too. This was significantly less when I weighed it, so I knew it was going to make a smaller, well, blanket. It's not really a blanket, it's quite small. So actually it's just more of a sort of a lovey. So it's just going to be a really nice fluffy, snuggly blanket, snuggly comforter for a child. So it's got this nice cloudy look. Basically did the exact same thing, except that for this one it hides more problems. So if you forget to increase in the right place, or if you increase using a stitch which isn't as seamless and is would ordinarily be visible, it won't be visible with this because there is 0 stitch definition in this yarn. It's so fluffy, you can just about tell it's been made diagonally, but that's fine. It wasn't about stitch definition with this one, it was just about using up yarn. So that was, I think this was about 60 grams, and I think the other one was actually about 90 because I only just broke into that skein. So we've got 2 baby blankets. Oh, what have we got next? Oh, okay, next one. This is a yarn that I was gifted, and this is actually a cotton yarn. So most of the yarn that I've been using is just acrylic because parents can throw it in the wash, don't have to worry about it. But one of those fluffy ones, maybe even both those fluffy ones, are polyester, but again, same principle, throw it in the wash at 30, don't have to worry about it. This is a at least partially cotton blend. If not fully cotton, I'll have to dig out the ball band. So a little bit more careful with this one, but I'm also not totally precious about this because I was gifted this and I just wanted to work with it. It is very, very fluffy. This is a cardigan pattern that I actually converted into a jumper pattern. Very simple. It will fit, it's got a lot of stretch in it because of this raglan, so it will fit for a little bit longer. It is designed to be a bigger size. I think that you're looking at maybe about a 1-year-old there. This is the thing, I knit for babies all the time. I don't bother with sizes because I don't have somebody to measure to try and make it fit. It gets made at a certain size and it either fits or it doesn't, and if it doesn't, it goes to another child. That's my rule. So I've made this very fluffy jumper. Problem is, didn't use any yarn. I had 2.5 balls, maybe 3 balls of this stuff left, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'll get through it. No, this was about 1.5 balls of yarn. I wanted to get through more. So with the remaining half ball of yarn, I made a matching hat. So this is just old shale pattern, so it's a little bit lacy, a little bit bumpy. So that also is a slightly better size for a youngster, so it's possible that with the grey cardigan the hat is far too big for the cardigan, and then with this the hat is too small for the jumper. What can you do? So that was another attempt to use loads of yarn up, and then we've also got another make. So this was, I couldn't be bothered to put the green ball from the zebra back on the shelf, so I figured I would make some stuff out of the remainder of the ball, and I made a little sports vest. It's way too small, so like it is very, very, very cropped. So yeah, it's got these huge armholes. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous. The proportions, I did find this pattern online, but the proportions are ridiculous, and I did crop it because I didn't want to run out of all the green yarn, because I did want to make a hat as well. But a little bit daft, hopefully cute, I don't know. But it's just this really nice sports vest. Ultimately though, what I'm really, really happy with is the neatness with which I was able to pick stitches up along the arm. So I did this just before making something for myself, and actually having done these little arm rib stitches, it did give me a lot more confidence for making jumper constructions for myself in a way that I would have to go back and add arms later. So it's a bit of a weird size, but ultimately happy with the techniques I've learned along the way. I made a matching hat, and then I did steam block it to give it a lovely drape. Might notice it's a bit big. Here's the vest that it was meant to go with. I think at a push I could get this hat on my head. So I don't think that this was good sizing on my part. It definitely stretched a lot when I steam blocked it. More so than the other stuff that I'd been steam blocking previously. So lesson learnt, that is just a spare hat, but I did have some extra yarn in that colour still, so I made the next size down, which is a little bit better. So here's the first hat, and there's the second. So a lot smaller, a lot more tolerable a size. And in fact, actually, I think I made these before I made the hat for the blue outfit, and so when I made the blue one, I made that in the smaller size, knowing that the bigger size came out way too big. So that's those. Okay, we've got a couple more things left in the bag. So, we have got bunting. This, another great way to use up scrappy yarn, and I kind of did know about it, but I totally forgot. So what I actually ended up doing was taking 2 scrappy greens that I had in very, very thin yarn, and I held them together, and now I've got this slightly shiny shimmery. You can't really see very well in the camera, it doesn't want to focus. Can I get it to focus? No, it doesn't want to focus. You'll have to take my word for it. It's got a shimmery yarn and a non-shimmery yarn, so it's just got ever so slightly a hint of shimmer to it, and I've just threaded those with some other scrap yarn, and they're going to make some nice bunting. And we've also got, now don't judge this one. I attempted to do this without a pattern. Can kind of tell. So this was the very, very last of the salmony colour and the cream colour pastel yarn, because there was more of these than there was the green and the blue. And I tried to do this, and it's steam blocked in a very, very, very loose, thin way. I was pretty sure I used a 3.5mm. Maybe I didn't. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe I used a 4mm needle. But it's really quite thin. You can kind of see it's very loose, very thin, and steam blocking only made that worse. It's an experiment. I will ask anybody if they want it, and if not, I will keep it as a prototype, and I'll see if I can't do this. Now, caveat, this is not something that like I've just designed. I saw a picture online, and I only saw the picture. Like, I don't know where it came from, I don't know what the name of the design was, it was just a picture, and I thought I could probably make something like that without a design, and I mostly have. The problem has been the armholes and neckband has not come out the way that I wanted it to, but the actual tubing of the dress is about right. I think the problem here was the yarn and possibly the needle size that I used with it. So I would try and make something like this again. I'll see if anybody wants this for their daughters, and if not, that's fine. And then you do need to do like a bow to go over it, and that, again, that bow did not come out great. So it's worth a try. Thankfully, the next thing that I have, and the last thing that I have in this bag, is something that I'm really quite proud of. This is a free pattern online. I've forgotten who it's from, and so I'll put that detail in the description. But this is a star onesie, and again, it is with Christmas coming up. It is meant to be like the Christmas star. So I found this online. I did not have anything between vibrant and pastel yellow, so we got pastel yellow. It took the majority of a ball of yarn. Fairly simple construction, managed to whip it up in a couple of days. The longest thing was actually waiting for buttons to arrive so that I could sew the buttons on, and I didn't make buttonholes. They just go through, if you get the right size buttons, they go through the holes in the crochet anyway. So really happy with this. It begs to be seen if it's going to fit a child. It felt really small, so it might fit a newborn. I don't know how long it'll fit them for, but you know, we did our best, we tried it, and if not, it is a prototype, just like the last thing. But I'm more optimistic for this than I am for the other dress, so I'll let you know. I'll let you know if it goes down as a winner. So sorry for having to rattle through all of that. That was a lot of baby stuff to go through in the last 30 minutes. I don't have time to go much slower. I have to wrap all of these things imminently, because over the next few days, I'm going to be visiting various parents in order to give these to them. I don't have time. I'm still in the midst of the chaos. I'm still feeling it. I'm quite panicked. And I just wanted to make sure that I captured these things on video. I realised that the lighting is really bad quality. I had no other choice but to do this straight after work, and I've lost the natural light, so I'm sorry. But yeah, hopefully my next video will be better. So I'm also just realising that this is all on my new camera, and my new camera is better quality camera, so you're capturing all of these terrible conditions in better HD. Like, this is the wrong way around. The HD is supposed to increase the production quality of these videos. So yes, next videos should be better. Upcoming videos are going to include I hope, some gimbal footage of going around Scotland, so that's very exciting, I hope, and also some recordings of the items that I'm making for myself for the first time using hand-dyed yarn. So this is so big. Like, I've been buying this hand-dyed yarn since this time last year. It was such a game changer for me. I absolutely loved it, but I did have that analysis paralysis of what do I make. And at my last yarn show, I tried to focus less on the yarn and tried to focus a bit more on patterns and inspiration, and notions, of course, because you need notions, but mostly patterns and inspiration, and I came away with some. And I've made 2 items already, and I'm in the process of making the 3rd item out of hand-dyed yarn, and I've been loving the experience. So I'm not going to talk too much about that now because that is a next video or a video after thing, but as you can tell, I'm really excited to bring you that. So between the better camera and hopefully more time to record those videos in the coming weeks, that should be a better video. But for now, I'm gonna wrap this video up because I need to go and wrap all those baby things, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now, everyone.